Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back. In this video, we're going to discuss a letter from Birmingham Jail, so let's do it. Alright, so of all the required documents in AP Gov, this is far and away the most unique. It's the most different. It's the one that stands out. If you think about the others, they're either official government documents like the Articles of Confederation, Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, or they're an argument for or against the Constitution. We have 4 Federalist Papers and we have Brutus number 1. This isn't any of those things. It also wasn't written at the founding era, which is actually really good for us because, well, it's a lot easier to understand. And I do want to take a moment, I'm probably going to do this again at the end of the video, but I want to encourage you to read Letter from Birmingham Jail. Now, I understand that one of the reasons you're here watching this video is probably so you don't have to read the documents yourself. I get it, and I'm doing my best in that regard, but I really love this essay, and I would highly recommend it. I definitely encourage you to check it out and to read it. I don't think you'll be disappointed. But there kind of is that question, well, being that it is so different than the other documents, how exactly is it a foundational document for AP government? Well, the main way is that we can interpret it as calling for the fulfillment of words in the Declaration of Independence, like all men created equal, and words in the Constitution, like the preamble where it says, we the people, the 14th Amendment and the Equal Protection Clause. We view Letter from Birmingham Jail as kind of a rallying cry, as a demand for the fulfillment of those lofty ideals, those words that were written in our other documents, to actually make them true. So let's go into this a little bit more detail and see how we can view that document in this way. So we're going to shift gears slightly, and we're going to look at how this document parallels some of the other required documents. So we're going to start with the Declaration of Independence. If you recall the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson wrote a list of grievances. Well, in Letter from Birmingham Jail, Martin Luther King does something similar. He also has a list of grievances, and he goes on to tell his audience exactly some of the things that black people in the South especially have been putting up with for decades, for centuries in fact. He talks about things that are a little bit more recent, about the segregation, racial injustice. He talks about the unjust treatment in courts, the unsolved bombings. He talks about the many conditions that black people have had to put up with in the South, and he's saying this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is why this movement is necessary and vital and has to occur right now. We could almost view Letter from Birmingham Jail as kind of a thesis statement of the civil rights movement, showing why that social movement was necessary and the policies that it demanded to be put into place. And the first sentence here illustrates exactly why it was so vital. He says, we know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. He also goes on to talk about the timing and how so often he as a civil rights leader has been told to wait. Some of my favorite passages in Letter from Birmingham Jail are where Martin Luther King Jr. talks about the supposed neutrality of time. That some people argue that if you just wait, things will get better in the future. And he demolishes that myth. Things don't just automatically get better because time passes. No, it's because people are working hard. People are doing something. People are trying to make that change. It won't just happen inevitably. It's the result of the movement. It's a result of those efforts. So he is clearly advocating for that social movement and demanding those policy changes. He also advocates for civil disobedience or the intentional breaking of laws. But why would he advocate such a tactic? He says, you express a great deal of anxiety over our willingness to break laws. And he acknowledges that this is a legitimate concern. And he says this is especially true because we diligently urge people to obey the Supreme Court in Brown versus Board, where they ordered the desegregation of public schools. So he acknowledges that this could seem hypocritical to then advocate for breaking other laws. So what's the justification? In one of the most important passages in this document, he says, the answer lies in the fact that there are 2 types of laws, just and unjust. I would be the first to advocate obeying just laws. He says that we have a legal and a moral responsibility to obey laws that are just. On the other hand, and here's the important part, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. He says that an unjust law is no law at all. And if you're wondering, well, what types of laws are unjust? In future paragraphs, he spells it out very clearly. He's talking about any law that treats people unequally, ones that promote the inferiority of one person in relation to another. These laws are unjust, and therefore not only is a person right for disobeying them, but a person has a moral obligation to disobey such laws. And we can see that same parallel being made even today, nearly 60 years later. Now, he also advocated for nonviolent tactics. In this section, it says, you may well ask, why direct action? Why sit-ins, marches, and so forth? He says, isn't negotiation a better path? He says, this is the purpose of this direct action, of the civil disobedience, of the marches, of the protests. This non-violent direct action is trying to create such a tension that it can no longer be ignored, and therefore the problems must be addressed. And finally, we see a callback to that idea of natural rights, just like in the Declaration of Independence. He says, we have waited for more than 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. Again, talking about a just law, he says it's one that squares with the moral law or the law of God. So just like Jefferson had these allusions to a creator, to natural rights, to something that was greater than humans, Martin Luther King Jr. is doing the same thing. He's giving that appeal to his audience that again justifies their conduct, justifies the civil disobedience. He's saying that the law itself is immoral. We're following something higher than man-made laws. And again, you see the explicit demand for the fulfillment of those words, we the people, and all men created equal. He mentions those constitutional rights, those natural rights, and he's saying this is something that has not happened yet. It needs to happen now. So again, I just want to encourage you to read Letter from Birmingham Jail yourself. I really think you won't be disappointed if you do. So check that out. Till next time, this has been a La Money production. Thanks again for watching this video. Do me a favor, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for, but go ahead and subscribe already. Check out the AP Gov Ultimate Review Packet. It is awesome. It has everything you need to prepare for the AP Gov test. And best of all, I made it so you know it's good. I'll see you all next time.